Tyler, first of all, I mean, congratulations on the film. It's a real triumph and a wonderful experience as much as anything. Can you tell me how you got involved with it? What was your initial contact with the project and what drew you to it?
Yeah, so we had a script sent to us. We get scripts sent to us all the time. Lots of cold emails, that kind of thing. That's kind of how it works. And we had one sent to us by a dad of a special needs kid named Elijah, which now turned into Learning You. But in its infancy stages, it was a much different film. But one of our producers on our team actually has a daughter that's 35 years old that's profoundly autistic. And so that's what drew him to the script originally. And he called me and said, "Hey, you need to read this. This guy gets it."
Right.
And one thing led to another. And about a week and a half after I read the script, we were meeting with the author, looking at what would it look like to buy this from him and develop it. So really, it was a personal connection from someone on our team that is a parent of an autistic child.
And what was it in the script that you thought this is going to make a really good movie?
Two things. One, the first thing that I thought of was the surrounding ministry that we could do
Yeah.
with the film, especially here in the United States. The parents of special needs kids are really isolated. A lot of them feel kind of like they're on an island. So I knew we could use this as a catalyst to raise awareness and also tangibly step into their lives. But then selfishly, from a creative standpoint, anything with a talking polar bear, I thought was, was a pretty cool idea, and I wanted to be able to expand on that.
The talking polar bear is fascinating, isn't it? I mean, what a brilliant addition to the script. And I love the scene right at the end of the credits where we get to see the actor playing the talking polar bear. But I've said to people, just stay for the very end because that's a fantastic moment. So when you were developing the script, you're talking to the writers. How much research did you yourself need to do into special needs kids?
A lot. I wanted the word that we kept throwing around was authenticity. So we wanted to tell this story in a way that felt raw and organic to what an actual family like this would go through. So it required me to actually talk to a lot of families. I can't just make assumptions. I have to like do the work. So we ended up talking to probably close to 100 different families that are parents or caregivers on various levels of the spectrum. So it could be very high functioning, fully normal in a sense of like how their brain functions, but socially unaware kids, all the way to kids that have been in an institution since they were at a young age. And so we sat down and talked to them, got to learn their stories, and it gave me a different level of compassion than I've ever had.
Right. Yeah, because the film is so compassionate, and you can't help but love the boy in the film. Casting must have been key to this. I mean, tell me a little bit about the casting process.
So when we decided that to greenlight the project, the first person I thought of was John Wells, who plays the dad in the film. And I thought of him for a couple of reasons. One, he's a good actor. I've worked with him in the past. He's one of those actors that kind of is the chameleon, can be like in any role. But also he is the parent himself of a 10-year-old named Tristan, who is profoundly autistic.
Oh,
And so
really?
I knew this story would be like half script and then half him just playing out life events on screen. Um, then the hardest casting role was by far finding Elijah.
Yeah, of
When you watch
course.
the film, you recognize that he has to play normal, non-autistic in dream sequences, while also accurately portraying autism tics and things like that in the rest of the film. So that made it very challenging. We cast an autistic actor to play the other boy in the film because he didn't have to play both roles. So we spent probably 6 months on trying to find Elijah. Found Caleb Milby out of Oklahoma in the United States, and he was kind of like an unknown guy. Had been in like one or two films before, but just knocked it out of the park on his audition. But the
Amazing.
level
Yeah.
the level of respect that he put into the role was what was key for us. He volunteered with a special needs nonprofit in his area for about 6 months before we started filming, and was just highly respectful of asking questions to make sure he was portraying this in a way that wouldn't be offensive, but would be honoring of what these families go through.
Right. Okay. And did he? I mean, he had to do his research, I guess, as well. How much time did you spend during the pre-production with the actual family, the true?
Yeah. So Jeff, the guy who wrote the original version of the script, which it looked a lot different than the final version,
Right.
he was fairly involved throughout the whole thing. It was really cool. The real life Elijah makes a very brief appearance in the film.
Really? I must have
He,
missed that.
yeah, he just walks past the camera, like you wouldn't know
Okay.
it if you didn't know it was him. But he really does carry a stuffed polar bear around with him at all times, and he's very much like the character, very very lovable, but also can go 0 to 100 in a split second. So it was very interesting to just like be able to look over on set and ask the real life dad, like, "Hey, is this kind of how this would be?" And I think it helped make it more honest.
We had a very successful film in this country last year called I Swear, which was
Mm.
about a boy who suffers from Tourette's,
Okay.
and the actor who was playing him, did a great job. And I thought that your actor was amazing. Um, so, how long was the pre-production period, and then how long was the production period? Because you
We
must have
did
travelled for miles.
we did about a year of pre-production.
Wow.
We were on set for the 34 shooting days, so a little over a month.
Right.
Um, and then post-production took about 6 months or so. So a couple of year total project.
And there's obviously a spiritual aspect to this. We see the family attending church. Um, Tell me a little bit about the spiritual aspect of the film, and also about filming those scenes.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I enjoyed about the script originally was that there was no human beings acting not like regular human beings, if that makes any sense. So sometimes in Christian films, we'll stretch
Yeah,
the audience, we'll ask the audience to like ignore reality a little too much.
I
But
agree.
this one felt very honest and real. Um, and I love this allegory of a father learning how to love his son that isn't acting the way that he wants him to act.
Yeah.
And I think that's an incredible view of how God has to view us. Of like he loves us so much, but then also recognizes when we act out in ways that aren't in accordance to his will, and yet he still continues to show up and still continues to love us. So I love that like overarching allegory there. And then the main theme for the other family in the film comes from Jesus's words in Matthew, talking about what does it gain for someone to
Yeah.
gain the
Cool.
whole world but lose his soul. And so you've got this running theme of two dads kind of learning how to love their children while also not sacrificing their soul for personal
Sure.
gain, and both in various business avenues.
And that was a real church you filmed it, those scenes in?
That is the church that I am the lead pastor of. Yeah, that
Oh,
is actually our church. So, yeah,
so
that
is
was
that
really fun. We did
it's
it.
not you preaching though, is it?
Do
Is
what?
that you preaching? Is that you preaching in the
No,
film?
that's not me. That's an actor. So we actually did that at the end of one of our services on a weekend.
Oh,
So
wow.
the last like 10 minutes of a service, we shot that scene, and our whole church got to be like extras in the background, which was kind of cool.
I mean, I've been a pastor myself of two churches in my time, and juggling being a pastor with taking a year out to make a film. Um, I don't think my church would have let me do that necessarily. You must have a very sympathetic church.
So we're very unique. When we started doing online and digital ministry, that was well before COVID. So kind of way before it was like the cool thing to do.
Yes.
Um, and and out of that, we started doing some narrative content, and the church has just embraced it. And so when I became the lead pastor 5 years ago, one of the agreements was that every 2 years we could make a film as a church, and
Wow.
it's been incredible to watch God use that. Just last week, from when we were doing this interview, we showed one of our previous films in Uganda, and they had a moment where people could accept Christ. And 118 people got baptized
Praise
last
the
weekend
Lord. That's
after watching.
amazing.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Hallelujah.
So yeah, it's just part of our ministry. It's a unique thing.
Well, I mean, I watch films and do critics on films for the radio station and write books about films. I've never really been involved in one. And I'm just thinking, when I was a pastor, crumbs, It's hard enough doing the one job, dealing with people as well as making a film. So you said that was an act of preaching. How important was it? What was the message that you wanted people to get from watching this film? I took several things away from it. What did you want people to take away from the film?
That answer has, I think, shifted as we
Right.
progressed through the movie. But I think the main takeaway for me is it actually comes from the title of the film, "Learning You." It was a throwaway line that we didn't think was going to make the final cut, and it ended up not only making the cut but becoming the title of the film. Um, but the more I've thought about that idea of constantly learning people within relationships and constantly learning God within relationship with our relationship with Him. Um, Once we stop making an effort to learn the other person on the other side of the table, usually those relationships die. And I think no matter if you have a special needs kid or not, we can all learn from that concept of constantly being open to learning from this other person, learning who they are, learning how to love them. And when we stop making that effort, I think that's when we start seeing relationships kind of go south. And so that's been a nice reminder for me that no matter the situation, you can always learn how to love someone better.
Yeah, I think I took that away. And I mentioned this film we had out in the UK last year called "I Swear" about Tourette's, and I think both your film and that film I've taken away, about the need to just care, just to love
Mhm.
other people as they are and to accept them as they are without being judgmental. And
Right.
that really comes through your film very, very after and very, very powerfully. I really enjoyed it. So,
Awesome.
where were the beach scenes filmed?
Yeah.
I'm curious.
So every scene that you see that's either indoor or in the car,
Yeah,
they were all filmed on sound stages. So it's completely
the
fake.
car scenes were filmed on soundstage.
Yes. So
Wow.
it's all LED walls making
It's not
the
like
car.
the old days when somebody would sit there doing that and the scenery would so obviously move in the background on the
Same,
backstage.
same exact concept, it's just with modern technology.
Well,
So, but then the actual beach scenes were filmed in South Carolina in the United States, which is about 9 hours away from where our
yeah,
studio is.
yeah.
So that was a logistical nightmare. We had to move about 100 people, either via truck or plane. But half the crew was filming the drone shots of the road trip
Sure.
while we were driving to the beach. So we had one crew doing that, and one got to just get on an airplane and meet us there. So,
I'm part of an organisation here that runs a Christian film festival
oh, cool.
every year. I will send it. Pure Radio have got the details, and I will ask them to pass them on to you because I'd love it if perhaps you could submit your film.
Yeah.
How are people going to see it? Is it what kind of release is it going to get?
So yeah, it had a theatrical release here in the United States. It will have a limited theatrical release in the UK on
Sure.
starting March 13th. It's in about 25 cities. But after that, it'll be out for streaming pretty much wherever you can watch movies for rental or purchase. And then in April, it'll be on Up Faith and Family as a subscription.
That's good. I was interested in your comment about Christian films because one of my friends is a guy called Mark Kermode, who is probably the leading film critic in the UK. And he has often said to me the problem with faith-based films is that they're naff, to be honest. Yours isn't. So you obviously put a lot of hard work into making this feel real and into making this feel a real experience for people. How was it working with the not the real Elijah, but Elijah? I think you said, but
Yeah.
just elaborate a little bit.
It was one thing before I go into how it was
Yeah,
with Elijah is that it was really interesting. Like we made this film out of a church. I'm a full-time pastor. Several of our crew members were pastors on our staff, and then just lots of Christian life experience put in this film. But it was interesting because some of the normal distributors that I work with, they didn't know what to do with the film because it wasn't that stereotypical like cookie cutter
sure.
Christian film model. There was no big like come to Jesus moment at the end. The person gets baptized in the rain after he gets hit by a car or whatever. The crazy
You don't have
experiences that
Billy
we
Graham preaching "Come Forward" and everybody
no,
can the
yeah,
hero of the film
there's
comes
a
forward. Yeah,
there's a talking polar bear, and the end of the film is
yeah,
basically just like, hey, life is hard, but like through God we can get through this. And so it was just really interesting to shop this movie around. We found the perfect distributor to work with because they believed in the idea of it. But the regular Christian audience didn't know what to do with this one. So it was just interesting that you said what you said, and I appreciate it because that's what we were going for. We didn't want it to be like a
It
cookie cutter.
really does feel authentic. I mean, I was at a screening, a press screening of the animated film The King of Kings. I don't know if you've seen that in the States, with Kenneth Branagh playing Charles
Yeah.
Dickens telling his son the Jesus story. And I was sat next to a woman who works at Odeon Cinemas here. And I was talking to her, and she said there is an appetite, particularly in the UK at the moment, for faith-based films, but they need to be of a certain caliber and they need to be of a certain quality. And King of Kings, and also we had episodes of The Chosen that were shown in cinemas here, and they made the box office top 10.
Yeah.
And it shows when care and thought is taken, and when there is real quality to the films, they can be a success. So you said it's going to be playing about 25 cities in the UK?
Yeah, yeah. If you go to learningyoumovie.com, you can find a map of where it's at in the UK.
Yeah, we will definitely be promoting it on the station.
Sweet.
I love the music. I love the joy, 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 joy down in my heart. That was real fun. Was that a real thing in his life? Did he particularly like that song? Or tell me a little bit about the music for the film.
Yeah, so we worked with a composer named Jonathan Bartz, and this was a total God thing. He had watched a film of ours on Tubi from the past and loved it because it was very similar to this. We were trying to push boundaries of what Christian film could look like and the topics. And he reached out to me, and I didn't think anything of it. And he reached out a second time, and I started looking at his credits and realized that he had been working under John Williams' team for the last 12 years. So yeah, I was like,
you get much
what?
better than that, do you?
Yeah. So then I was like, Jonathan, like we can't afford you. Like we're like a small independent film, and he came down to whatever our budgeted rate was. And so what you heard was a completely live orchestra, completely original music. But the Joy, Joy, Joy Down in My Heart song was actually supposed to be the Barney theme song, the I Love You, You Love Me. We're a big happy family.
I know it, yeah.
Yeah, the license for that was unbelievably expensive. So we went with something that was in public domain. So it was a lot easier for us to navigate, and it was so much fun to film those scenes with the dad singing. So
it really was. Why that particular song? Because there are obviously a multitude of Christian choruses you could have chosen. It just felt right.
It felt right, and there was just this awesome contrast between what was happening in the character's life and then singing about this joy that's deep down in his heart, even though the audience can't see that yet. So it was almost like a storytelling device of foreshadowing of he's going to finally find joy. He's not there yet, but he's going to sing until he does.
I mean, I think this is a film that will appeal to Christians and non-Christians, and you don't often say that about, as we said, faith-based films very often. Risen was one that I think did. So this is really great. I'm certainly looking forward to it being distributed here, to it coming out. We're going to give it a 5-star review. What's next, Pastor?
Yeah, I mean, business as normal as a church. So as a pastor, I'm constantly meeting with people and things like that and preaching. But as far as filming goes, our next project that we're working on is a film called She's Dating Jesus, which is
that sounds interesting.
It's hilarious. It's kind of like a satire of the absurdity of how far people will take the purity culture movement from the 90s. And the concept of the film is challenging young men and women to learn how to be content in Christ and not content with only having attention from the opposite sex. But it's done in a really clever way. And so I'm really pumped to work on that. I'm actually not directing that one, though. This will be our first project that we are kind of, our hands are a little bit off of it, and we're doing more of a producer role and hired out a director and things like that. So
that sounds fantastic. So just remind us, everybody, of the name of your film company.
Yep, it's called First Capital Films, the town that I live in here in Indiana in the United States. We were the first state capital of Indiana. It's moved since then, but everything here is called First Capital something. So.
And people can find that information about the film at...
So you can find more information on the film at learningyoumovie.com, and that'll show you like where it's going to be in cinemas and things like that. And then our film company is firstcapfilms.com.
Well, listen, I hope it's a fantastic success because it deserves to be. I've only seen it on my laptop, and I'm looking forward to seeing it on the big screen. And we'll make the effort to go and see it on the big screen. And we will be, plugging it on Pure 247 Radio. I asked you what the message of the film is, what you want people to take away from it. What did you take away from it, from the experience? Yeah. What did it do for you as yourself?
Yeah. There was a couple of moments. I'll tell you two quick stories. We were out on the beach, and we had blocked off about 2 miles, so like a 2-mile radius where it was only like extras that were walking through. There wasn't stuff going on, and one of the extras she was a huge personality, and so she talked to some of our crew members, and they came and told me that she had an autistic grandchild. And so I was like, oh, okay, come here. Her name is Marcy. Like, Marcy, come meet John, who's the lead actor, because he has an autistic son. You guys can connect over this. And one thing led to the other, and Marcy just stopped in the middle of their conversation and prayed over him. And it was super powerful. She just put her hand on his shoulder and just prayed. But her specific prayer was, when my grandson was your son's age, he started realizing he was different, and he felt like he didn't fit in, and he didn't have any friends. So she just prayed this over him. And then the lead actor was in tears when she said amen, and I couldn't figure out why. He pulled out his cell phone and showed her a text from his daughter that was that morning. And the daughter was saying, Dad, Tristan doesn't want to get on the bus because he's saying I'm weird and kids don't want to be around me. And she had, like, without knowing it, prayed for exactly the situation he was trying to deal with in his life. So that was just profoundly powerful of how sovereign God is, and how that beach is 60 miles long, and we had it blocked off, and there was only like a handful of people allowed on it, and God put the exact right person in that spot. Then the other thing that I learned was another takeaway. We had a scene that got cut from the film where some adults bully Elijah. In a gas station. Yeah. And when we were filming it, even our crew, they were saying things like, this is not realistic. Like, this can't possibly happen. And every consultant we had on the film that was part of the autism community, each had a different story of how that exact situation had happened to their child recently. And it was this huge eye-opening moment for all of us of, we just really don't have any idea the cruelty of people and what these parents and these kids go through. So that was very eye-opening for me as well.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. So so we're going to get a director's cut DVD.
Yeah, maybe. We actually released that scene on the internet, and it went like briefly viral for a couple of weeks, like exposing, here, this is what these people go through. So
crazy. Listen, my friend, thank you so much for your time. I'm off to reapply for a pastorate, so they can give me a year off to make a film.
I still did my pastoral duty, so it wasn't all I was doing.
I'm sure it wasn't, Tyler. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for your time.
Yes.
I really appreciate it.
Did you know that at Pure 24/7 Radio we also offer advertising? Advertising really does work. Let's face it, you're listening to this. Want to know more? Well, just go to pure247radio.org, pure247radio.org/advertising, and you can get everything you want and more there.